People come and go. As we grow older, there's this chance that we lose people who matter to us. So, for today's video, we are going to talk about losing someone. Of course, there are these relationships that are not too personal, but in a way required or dictated by the society. Your classmates, your colleagues, and you don't have any other choice but to be with them because of what you have to do. And losing them along the way might not really be that painful, especially if you're not close to them, because it's a mere transition from one chapter to another. So you're just moving on with your life and trying to face some other new challenges, new environment, new classmates, new people to work with. So it's nothing really personal unless you develop special relationships with these people. And it might really be painful because you have already invested something. You invested time, emotions, attachment, and just the mere thought of not being with them anymore really makes you want to cry. Now, we have different reasons why we burn bridges. There might be misunderstandings, there might be unfair treatment, because being in a relationship requires responsibilities. But losing someone may also go beyond being in a relationship. And let me put this in a romantic context. Like, for instance, unrequited love. Of course, when we're in love and we want to pursue someone, we would do our best just to win his or her heart. But there will come a time that you will just realize if that person is really worth the wait. So the question is, when do you stop? Now, we have different situations, and let me go back. I am not merely talking about situations like that. I mean, just recently, I also lost my best friend. So how do we deal with this kind of loss? Because sad reality is, you cannot escape from pain. It will always pinch your heart, and even if you divert your attention, it will haunt you. Now, what do we usually go through if something like this happens? Now, I know that you have probably heard of the 5 stages of grief that we usually go through when we end a relationship or when we let go of someone. Now, this was introduced by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and according to her, these stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Denial is the stage wherein you think that things will still work, regardless of how detrimental or how deadly the situation that you had to go through. So you think that you can still work on this, you think that things could still be fixed, and you don't want to entertain the idea that you are about to lose the person. Anger, on the other hand, is when you start questioning why you need to experience that heartbreak, and this could definitely shaken your faith. Now, I am not talking about just your religious faith, but faith in everything. Faith in relationships, faith in love, faith in yourself. Meanwhile, bargaining is close to denial. But here you are trying to negotiate probably a behavioral change coming from you in exchange of keeping that person by saying that you are willing to change, that you will be a better person just for you to keep that relationship or just for you not to let go. Another stage, and probably the most difficult one, would be depression. So you are not driven at all. Instead of going to work or going to school, you just choose to stay on your bed, cry all night, cry all day. You choose not to eat, not to do something recreational. You choose not to go out, and other things that could really divert your attention. So your choice is just to drown and drown in sadness, and you ditch the idea of recovery. Now, the last stage is acceptance. So that's the time that you are able to rise up, realize that life is still worth living, that you can continue even without being with that person, and simply letting go of him or her. Now, be it known, however, that they are not necessarily followed in that order. And also, you cannot predict time. You cannot predict the duration of your depression or how long you will be in the bargaining stage. You can be in denial for 6 months to 1 year. It's all up to you. It's all about your mindset, and I would say the level of your maturity. Again, we have different situations. Some of the circumstances might be too difficult for us to bear. And of course, we see people differently. Some people really do matter to us, and it's just too heavy to carry if you lose that person. Nevertheless, I hope that you will still be able to rise up. On a personal level, and as mentioned earlier, you know that I have lost a lot of people already. Now, what I do every time is, first, I always acknowledge that I have to undergo these 5 stages. Well, not everyone has to undergo these 5 stages, by the way. Some may skip a stage, some may repeat a stage, so it really all depends on us. Of course, no one wants to experience this, but there is no way for you to escape from it, and you cannot graduate from that person or from that situation. The second thing I do is that I try to reflect and find myself. Along the way, chances are you will lose yourself, or a part of yourself at least. Now you have to rebuild yourself. You have to love yourself once again, because you cannot continue living if your view of yourself is distorted. Third thing I do, and this for me is the most difficult, is to be grateful. Grateful for 2 things. First, the person. Well, that person could have really hurt you deeply, but you have to remember that once upon a time, he or she made you happy. And I think we owe it to that person to still be grateful regardless of what happened. You have to carefully analyze how the person hurt you, especially in the context of unrequited love. You know, if that person did not feel the same way, it wasn't his or her fault not to love you back. Now, if someone betrayed you, then of course it would be more justifiable for you to hate the person. But try to go back to all these things that he or she did for you. Probably that could lessen the pain. Another thing that I am grateful for every time is the experience. You know, just like what Miss Universe Catriona Gray said, we should see situations with a silver lining. Even if things unpleasantly ended, the thing is, that was still a lesson. Now it's up to you if you want to learn from that lesson or not. Because if you say, no, not a lesson, expect that it will happen again and again and again. And that is also how you will find that love for yourself. You know what you deserve, you know what you don't deserve. So again, letting go of someone is difficult. Walking away is our last resort every time. And as I said earlier, people come and go. So it's a challenge for us to be strong every time we encounter this. And always have that hope that even if you lose someone, someone new will come. And you know that you can better deal with that new person because you have already learned from the past.